on, let me get my other one up.
Live stream is on.
My Audacity's on, go.
All right, well, we're waiting for the clock.
Oh, no.
3 o'clock.
I did change my clock in my office, so it helped me.
We do have some time.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Y'all might have to turn the microphones on.
Do you have the microphones on?
If it turns green, it's probably where the battery's.
All right, it's 3 p.m. on Thursday, June 25th. We're going to call this City Council special meeting to order. Do a roll call, please.
Gina Martinez, District 1.
Houston Martin, District 2.
Will Schreiner, District 3. Dallas, Lee, District 5.
And Bruce Alexander there. All right, like everything, we'll go to citizens' comments. City Council will hear comments from any citizen or visitor. Speakers must address their comments to the presiding officer rather than individual council members or staff. Stand at the podium, speak clearly in the microphone, and state your name, residential address before speaking. Speakers will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes for testimony. In accordance with the State of the Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing and taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action will be taken at a future meeting. Is there anyone who wants to make citizens' comments? Once again, I just want to make sure that there's anyone who wants to make citizens' comments. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, discussion items. The budget workshop discussion only, just keep in mind that there are no actual decisions made in the workshop. And so it's a discussion only. Today's discussion will be the department budget concerning the airport. We're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, for y'all's review is the airport budget created a while back, previous airport administration. And so, I'm going to just open it up to what questions you all have. I do have Pete and Ronnie here from the airport. Is everybody here?
I did, so just make sure everybody does know. You know these gentlemen? They are the full-time. Okay, the guys that take care of the airport.
You do a good job. So I asked, I invited them this because it's my activity is not here. I thought Pete, Ron, shed some light on some of these accounts. I think we have questions. And so right now I'm going to open up to the council and see what questions y'all have.
We do not currently have an airport manager.
Correct.
Okay. And the duties, responsibility of the airport manager or the report is to the administrator.
And I wouldn't have any questions, but I would like to figure it out.
Sure.
Eric, this is specific airport fund.
Correct.
Correct.
Can you kind of describe what that is? Like, who has the authority to spend out of the fund? What else?
So it has its own bank account.
Okay, so it's not general, this is
It's
all.
not general fund, this is airport fund only. The check signers can actually sign the checks along myself and Deborah.
Okay.
But no one really else has access to utilize this fund other than people on the accounts and
For normal accounting purposes, the city has 3. They have a general fund account, which is the green check. They have an airport fund, which is a brown check. And then they have the utility system, which is a blue check. So you see the color of the checks.
all of their expenses come out of the airport fund. That's it.
I do want to answer one thing really quick. The general fund is governmental functions, primarily source of income is taxes and fees. Governmental functions. Both the enterprise, both the utility system and the airport are enterprise funds. In other words, they're proprietary funds. They're businesses owned and operated by the city. The airport fund is a little different because it has covenants and restrictions based on the Federal Surplus Property Act the city took it over. That's all I want to clarify. So that's why it has to be purely accounted for separately. But having said that, it is a proprietary fund of the city and should be able to stand alone on its merits, just like the other funds, just like the utility system.
And the current staffing levels, we currently have 2 full-time employees, and then we have 1 part-time that currently is not filled. And so what I do need from council is some directions 3 months left. Right now, we have to keep them on, and I know they're very busy out doing maintenance, and right now we have no one doing the actual business day-to-day operations of the airport. So right now, again, it's budgeted for the rest of the year, so we do have funds there posted, and let this person finish out until September 30th, and then we'll decide to continue with that person who real else. In the proposed budget, we do have another part-time position funded in there, so we got decided, we want full-time, and then we want to go part-time. The part-time is definitely in the proposed budget.
One thing also I want to clarify, make sure everybody fully understands. There was a request by a citizen to make the airport manager a council appointed position. Officially, it never has been. It's a responsible to the city administrator, and that's what the city has made that. In years past, way back when, the actual city administrator served as airport manager. In 2000, the city actually hired somebody to be airport manager, and kind of started getting grants and working with other things. And things have kind of progressed from there to where we want that. But like other departments of the city previously, they were all considered working type supervisor. So it's all in how you want to see it through job descriptions. But right now, it is a department directly under the administration. And I just wanted to clarify that where there are level of accountability.
Their biggest, one of the biggest, I know we talk about revenue, but their biggest sales are the lease and the rentals, as well as the fuel sales. So that's what dominates their budget on the expenditure side. So, what questions do y'all have regarding the proposed budget? Yes, sir.
So, and I couldn't tell you how, but I'm just curious, what caused almost the 60%? It's almost 500,000.
Yeah, what I see here is the fuel cells, because right now we have approved $180,000 currently for fuel, and the recommendation was to bump it to $472,500. Now, if you take the average, on average, we're about 217, 220, but I know with the cost of fuel based on the economy that kind of just fluctuates, and so 472 is definitely high, but again, this is just like a working draft budget.
But there's a correlated, there's a revenue side.
Correct, yes.
We offset that.
Right.
So I don't know what the markup is, but let's say hypothetically it's, for argument's sake, $1 a gallon. So if there's 100,000 gallons, then there's income, whatever the cost is plus that. So if you don't sell the fuel, you don't have the expense. And corresponding income.
It does make your budget seem like it's big, but like I said, if you don't receive the revenue side, then you really shouldn't be spending out on the expenditure side. It should balance out.
What you have to be careful, with that is, and I'm not faulty because Mike's with the district trends, but you gotta be careful with that because if you're looking for sources of revenue to balance for other expenditures, you gotta make sure you don't inflate what you think you're gonna get. Because if it's lower, then your total income obviously is lower, but it could affect the other expenditures. Makes sense?
So just right now, currently, we approved about $355,000 in fuel sales this current year. Right now, we're at 332, so we're about 93% that we've already met our budget. So there's like 7% left to meet the entire 355. So we're doing really good at fuel sales. On the flip side, on the expenditure side, we're at about 317, 318. We've already paid out in fuel sales, in fuel expenditures.
The other thing everybody needs to understand on fuel sales is Castroville has traditionally, management, has kept our fuel rates at the airport comparatively low to everyone within 100 miles because we want volume. And so we deal more in volume than we do with just spot purchases. Correct? Because, it's not that we could go up more and make more margins, but then you risk losing the volume. Does that make sense? So we make it up on volume.
Your biggest increase overall is get some fuel cells into it. Maybe
But the transfer out is the rental.
the 6,000 is for admin. So
That's admin.
The admin, like,
Wait,
we cut to the bottom of the.
The last page.
So they transfer out 6,000 every total, will be quarterly, and that's to help, pays for accounts payable, payroll, to kind of help they, pay their payroll, process their payroll and so forth. So,
which is argumentatively not sufficient. No,
no, because before I got here, it's always been 6,000, even prior to getting here,
I
7 years
understand
ago.
that.
So things,
I understand that. So as the cost of providing services have increased, the cost to the airport, while it's increased in other funds, it has not increased in the airport. So the airport fund, in theory, is subsidized by not actually paying for the services that's being provided by the general fund. Now, the flip side of that, the airport is probably entitled to some revenues from other things like leases and what have you. The airport fund, if you really want to balance it out, is also due for services provided by the city. $6,000, for example, argumentatively, all budgets combined, the airport fund is about 8% of all budgets. 8%. 8% of the administrator pays 3 times that. For example. Okay, so keep in mind, if you want to talk about transfers into the airport, you have to keep in mind that it's not true accounting by transfers out. I'm only making that point. So if you want to balance it out, you can really get in the weeds on that. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. Now, when you're talking about, and I want to bring this up, when you talk about because we don't have the income stuff in front of us, the $500 whatever that the airport fund was getting from the general fund. I think this year it did, but for like this year before that, it was every year on platform general fund was paying the airport for the lease of the land for the dolphins.
Yeah, they have received that.
Okay. But that was for whatever purpose, a management decision that stopped that. And obviously, in my opinion, it should have never stopped. So, but it's a balance. And then in the past, there was arguments about when you get back and forth, is it a city road? Then the city pays for the road. No, but it's an airport road. Well, then the airport pays for the road. Okay, is it city-owned utilities or is it airport-owned utilities? Sometimes it's better to let that sleeping dog lie than it is to get in the weeds and start doing that. I'm not saying there hasn't been a full accountability to the airport, but I am going to say if you want to go there, there hasn't been a full accountability the other way. So it's a balancing act, but we have to balance it. We have to, because that's one of the requirements that if y'all don't know, revenues generated at the airport must go towards the aviation that. But that's that. But nobody, you want to say that, but let's get the rest of the story. But at the same token, the expenses associated with operating the airport are the airport's expenses. Now, there's a caveat where the city is required to ensure that it's ample funds to do that. So I'm just making a comment that when other people may be watching or other people that want to say things, you gotta be fair to the balance and not just tip the scales one way or the other. Because it is a business owned and operated by the city, and it should be covering its cost of operations. I want to ask you about airport manager personnel. So 2 full-time, 1 part-time.
yes, sir.
Okay. And we're good with the part-time manager?
For now, how do you guys feel with everything that's going on with the airport and everything?
My opinion is we need to be budgeted for.
And that's what the airport advisory board suggests as well. We got so much stuff going on at the airport, and with the inspections and the grant
pin that in the fact that 25 years ago, there was a full-time manager and a full-time guy in the field. Okay, but as we've added a lot more hangers, a lot more maintenance activities with more area, more land, things like that. So I'm not going to sit here and argue with a full-time manager and two folks working with maintenance.
Well, then if
Hard
one of them,
like crazy if I say it wrong.
yeah, or if one of them's out for leave or something, you still got
Because the airport is a 24/7 operation, so somebody, it's not self-service fuel.
Right. No.
Okay,
Placing us on the side.
you see what I'm getting at, so. I think that it's a good thing to move towards, whether we can, I believe we can balance the budget with that.
So nobody gets, you have to get your fingers, I mean, you guys have to service all the
Yes.
Jet fuel.
So,
not just jet?
Yeah, so we do have a self-service jet fuel, but 98% of our jet fuel is running through the trucks because of the jet. Majority of it's just.
They take a truck out to them.
So it's mainly personal fuel, almost.
Take a truck to
90%
just
of
to
it is
use.
gas.
It's not access to the whole of the fund.
Is there a certain time we're gonna cut off, or is it like 24/7, or is
27, they're on call,
They have to call.
yeah, on call, they're, yeah.
As long as they notify us within business hours, if they call and say, if they call us at 3:45, it's like, hey, we're either at midnight, somebody's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Does Public Works still help you? Used to a long time ago, they were a backup, I think.
And this is
Well-
a total number of people working.
Right now, it's just the two FTEs, so we don't have an airport manager right now.
So, and that's the other side of my recommendation for a full-time airport manager is having somebody else that's fuel certified, because we can't run fuel unless we're certified to do it.
Correct.
Me and Ronnie, that's it.
Yeah.
So if you have a full-time airport manager, he can get fuel certified, he can be on the docket, so when we're out or something.
And that was gonna be my other question, we get down to the education and training part. So, now,
No, we used to, myself, and others, we didn't have jet fuel, but except we did have fuel, it's a whole different
oh
animal.
yeah,
Testing and all that.
oh yeah, no, I understand all that, yeah. On your airport fund balance, that you gave us, back in April, it shows that they have 730,470 fund balance in the airport, is that still true?
as of that point in April, yes, has not been, from April to now, there hasn't been the.
You haven't lost any other funds? Remember, maybe we can pull that, we lost funds.
That was the front.
Okay. Okay,
You're talking grant money,
I'm just,
you're not talking actually on
Yeah,
fund.
Right,
I will say, we have about 3 months worth of opportunity, we have, about,
The grant is a 90-10.
right,
Right.
If you don't spend it, it's gone.
we have $72,000 left roughly in the rent grant that we need to spend it for 9/30.
How much?
About 72,000.
72,000 grant money, it cost us $7,200.
Yeah.
yeah.
But we have to find a project to use that before the money's gone.
We do
When
have
it gets renewed,
we did have projects on it with airport staff a couple of days ago, and they do have projects online, but there's a way of having to submit that request through the text box to get approved, and then you get going on it, and you get reimbursed after the job is done, you pay for it up front, and then you get reimbursed.
And that's why the airport manager position is so key, so
and the ramp is routine airport maintenance, okay? And it's a big current 100,000 available at a 90-10 grant
Correct.
on an annual basis. And if you don't use it, it goes away, and
What are you gonna do with this thing?
So you want to,
what they like to do.
What would you like to do?
Drainage.
yes.
Drainage, we just had that survey done, all that, got it all figured out, I don't know the outcome of that, we ever mentioned anything about after it's done, but we do have some, you know, we're working on it. So, the best use of that money would be.
Hydraulic study.
You have to make sure that it's a qualified expense under the grant program. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a text dot.
But when I say it the right way, it's not wide open, it has to be qualified project.
Additional drainage or
Just to
Make sure that,
kind of repair some.
make sure,
Okay.
And once they,
Yeah,
so
we're
they
back, so
built all those taxes.
Yeah.
Great space and all that.
Yes.
we're down between buildings.
That happened.
That way,
It's taxway, yeah.
So it's a lot.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you have to redirect drainage after reconstruction, it's not.
it wasn't. And potentially probably, it's correcting some
So,
understand.
And then, you were, I was curious, at 25, we had 200 grand in bad debt expense.
That's what it says.
Where you at?
Let me say, yeah, let me get back to the audit from last year to see what that was for. You know what, I think that was, verified the.
that was one hanger.
Mm-mm.
You remember getting airport owed the general fund about $2 million
The airport,
Like
one of, the airport on one of its last hangars, a combination of funding, and they did in-house, council approved, and in-house loan from the enterprise fund reserves to be able to do a project. So this was the airport fund paying it back. Bear in mind, the airport, the revenues come from the airport, obviously, from hangar leases, fuel sales, the farm lease, and then there's this magical thing they do every 10 years, which is a 10-year prepaid lease for the water rights. So about half of that was a 10-year prepaid lease. Now, in the past, and I don't want to put words in previous councilman's but he was very surprised that we had that much in reserve, because in the past, the city spent that money, the airport spent the money as quick as they could on projects. So it's very, it's not historically that the airport fund has that kind of a fund balance.
Yeah.
Because historically, we see that fund balance spending on projects. It's good to have that fund balance, because if something comes up, doesn't mean you can't do a project, but it gives you time and property to manage, take care of drainage issues, take care of other things, instead of just immediately rushing to build another hangar. So I just want to explain, the fund balance historically is not there,
No,
but
exactly.
it's a good thing, it's there, it gives you time to plan.
Correct.
Mark, I will confirm with that and get back to that.
Just curious, so
So that's a good question, thank you.
But with everything going on at the airport, I really supported being a full-time airport manager.
Okay, may I ask you a question? When it comes down to that, obviously, I need to. Of course, that's still, with Mr. Dixon, him and I had a long talk, and I told him, I said, look, falls under your purview. We encourage you to really consider this, but you're gonna have to defend it one way or the other, just like this. So I would agree with you, of course, it's up to the rest of it, to fund it. But how it's filled is up here, and then making sure. But in along the same lines, while we're working on job description, we make it clear what our expectations are.
Did you talk to David Kirkpatrick to see about their training program?
I actually have a meeting with you tomorrow.
Pat, Dawson. One of our former airport managers, David Kirkpatrick, Kate Dawson, well, they have a training for airport managers that they can provide. And that is a contractor that we have on retainer to utilize them for airport stuff.
Sure.
So that would be something to move us, because we have a person who's very interested in the topic. Very knowledgeable on airplanes and stuff like that, so it would be not a bad thing, but to get them trained up to Texas level, federal level, and everything, that's a training mechanism that's available for us. I don't know if David has the job description he had when he was airport manager.
We have it inside.
You have it in his file?
Every employee's on.
Yeah.
It's inside. One thing that I would, I guess, need feedback or guidance from y'all is, okay, for this current budget that we're in now, are we gonna just do part-time to finish out the year because it's currently budgeted? And then in the proposed budget, is what was up in here, we're gonna do full-time?
Well, my suggestion, again, council president, I'm saying,
Sure.
my suggestion is to move forward, fill a full-time position, and just, yes, yes.
So you want us to advertise for it? In this
That would be
time?
That would be my recommendation, because, again, I don't want somebody to misunderstand that Bruce is just wanting to spend the money because the money's there. But your staffing is your number one asset, and you have to have qualified staffing in your positions to be able to move forward with other things. Now, if you're telling me, and Leroy, you're telling me, and these folks are telling me that the airport is such a point that it requires two folks in the field, the manager, I believe, yes. And I don't want them to take this wrong way. You're telling me the work commands this, which I believe that's true, then we need to move forward and make it happen.
It is.
Because otherwise, we're back to the same thing, second guessing how it operates. That's just my.
So what we'll do is on Monday, we'll advertise an ADP for 2 days.
I tell you what my position is, I have to defer that to the rest of the council, but those are budget issues.
We have this
Discussion.
discussion. But do we have to make a
Consensus of what?
Yes.
No.
Well,
And we'll advertise locally.
Back up. The airport manager was budgeted as a part-time or full-time position.
Part-time.
So I'm going to back up and say, is the airport manager we had all since January,
Yes.
30 hours, that was more than 30 hours,
3 hours.
and no benefits?
No benefits.
Interesting.
Other than the TMRS, because if they have 1,000 hours over the year, we budget for that. But as far as health, dental, vision, nothing like that, no.
Really?
Can we move forward with the full time?
You'll be over budget.
I think Leroy can come back to us if necessary for a budget event. To do that. I believe that.
The workload is there.
So there's, we need a full-time manager, 100% need a full-time, but if just a couple months left in the budget, and its budget is our current budget is for a part-time. If we advertise for a part-time, get a part-time in, and find money somewhere else where we can pull in TSA to do professional airport management training with him specifically for 3 months, and then once the new budget kicks in, we roll him into full-time, and then we put TSA on the back burner for projects.
We can do that.
But it may be a person that already has experience, because I'm gonna run it in the paper too, besides,
Yeah.
so you may not have to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way.
That way it's budgeted. Are you okay? You got
Because it may be a month that we advertise.
marching orders.
Alright, go.
Okay, and budgeted next year for full-time.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask a question as far as, you have at the airport, I'm gonna ask this question. You guys contract out custodial services, you all take care of it? Sweep the room, take out the trash, clean the
It's
restrooms?
the same people that do our building. It's Jana King.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's a contract.
Yes, sir.
The reason I asked.
No,
that
it's okay.
Because we had one department said no.
I know.
Different, so I'm
Yeah.
asking for
Parks-
consistency.
They used to do parks, and they did it and cleaned the whole park,
Sure, sure.
and so they took that on themselves, and
Got
had
it,
more
that's
people
all.
come in.
Do they do, because we had,
Check with her later on about what they're supposed to do.
that's what
Maybe that might make your job really easier, so just check with them.
because they we budget a little bit more on the custodial side. Because if, I don't know if we're paying for them to do more than they do, or if they're doing exactly what we pay them to do, because it's not very good. So,
That's an issue that you supervisor, you need to talk to Leroy about,
I know Mike had spoke to him before on some issues, but if you come, I can reach out to him.
Let me ask you a question about the guys. You guys get involved with any rent collections on anybody? I'm asking, do you have anybody that's a little slow roller or rent or tickets?
We used to deal with that more frequently.
Do you guys interact with folks that, okay, I'm just knowing that.
I'd like to read one.
Well, that's
I'm
not.
not trying to put you in an enforcement type thing, just asking you if you make those occasional reminders, then you have to interact.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
a good question because if they don't pay, how long do you?
There's a contract.
No, it is,
And that goes through the administration over there.
You guys will clear out the payment?
You have not done that yet, right? Not done it, and as far as I know, that hasn't been done yet.
We have to go to court over some of it.
Well, that would be through the airport managers, through the administrator on how to enforce the terms of the.
And a court. Sometimes a court.
So for training, for the $4,500, you feel that's enough for training and your certifications and everything?
Yes, for us currently, now, if we were going to take ASA on for a couple of months and do medical training, we would have to get that number and see what that looks like.
Well, that's under outside contractor, right? That would not be
Okay, that's not.
training. Yeah,
But
I'm just making sure if there's any, now, does that include, you going to the conference, the
Yeah.
conference?
Leroy, I want to ask you a question about utilities. We'll talk about that more on the side note, but, I just signed a few checks from CPS for electric bills, and 2 of them say for the farmer. Well, so what does the farmer pay for and what does the city pay for? Because it said on there, it's for the well, for the farmer. Now, I know the well serves 2 purposes. I got it, but I was just curious on.
He gets a bill. They bill him
Right,
over.
but 2 CPS bills that just signed checks on saying farmer.
It may be just, I don't know, but it may be, but it may be an identification of that.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Huh?
Okay, we'll talk. And as far as the collection, they're gonna take care of this. The electric meters at the airport, we've had this talk, so I need to look, I want everybody to understand. The city here buys wholesale power. So by saying wholesale power, we're the retail behind it, so we're able to set whatever rates we want. At the airport, we buy retail. And you can't retail or retail. You're not allowed to collect anything more than what the actual subject. So I'm asking that again, because if we're paying a retail bill to CPS for the power at the airport, we used to have, the city used to have a special anchor rate that didn't have a markup in it. I'm asking them to check on it. You understand what we're going? Okay, I just want to make sure that we're legal in what we do and the practices we do, utility fees out there.
CPS is gonna buy that retail, correct?
I believe the bill we just paid out there, because it used to be, was a retail, not a wholesale. And that's okay, but the individual handling bill, you can't charge a markup on that. So if you pay CPS hypothetically 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and our rate is 12, well, all you do is collect 10. You can't collect more than what you pay.
I'll check on that.
Please. And I just want to make sure it's not a lot. But you don't want things like that to come back at you. I just want to make sure you're doing the right way. Thank you.
Who does landscaping? Is it the only one that I remember, the only one I've seen so far that is landscaping treatment? And that's, thank you for that. And then, repairs and maintenance, I've seen that it's decreased majority.
final.
I'm looking at repairs and maintenance,
Equipment repairs and
it starts from 412,
501,
Yeah.
that entire section.
Well, I'm sorry, okay, so that was equipment repair, that's okay, no, that's fine. It's the, building.
Buildings.
repairs.
Yeah,
We're talking about the buildings.
Yeah. So I marked out there that I wanted that at least have
The 14 grand, is for 15.
Well, it says proposed money.
Now, can I ask a question? Just real quick. The tractor that you guys have, the one that you have, do you share that with the public works?
Yeah.
Okay. Utilities. Share it with utilities, right? Share it with the streets.
Everybody.
But utilities, with the utility system,
Not that I know, I thought it was only street.
like they roll a highway or street.
Yeah, you go pick it up and.
Okay, okay. You got your answer.
Well, cause I've been asking them about it.
There was some recent maintenance done on that equipment and it was charged to the utility system.
It should have been split.
It was.
Yeah, it was, but it should have been the airport.
And I think y'all split the
Okay,
cost when we bought it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent.
I think we split it when you bought it, or when they got it.
It was, as far as I know from, the former manager said it was a 60/40.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And it is, and it's good, multi-purpose. I appreciate that.
How many courtesy cars do you have?
Is the white car got labels on the side of it, or just the word that said courtesy car, doesn't have?
I saw the black vehicle.
Just the,
Yeah.
Should it have a target,
It should be marked.
That's on the list,
the white car?
yes.
Valerie, to speak that, we see courtesy car in mine, and I was just courtesy. I was at the airport, should be, like.
Well,
But
if
I
the
would
pilots
think
take
so. I
it,
thought we were a policy, but I don't know what.
well, the pilots, if they come in and take it, I don't know that there's any restrictions.
Okay. I guess I'll let that.
it's just a common thing that you just, for that town.
Right.
If somebody needs to go to San Diego, they usually get it done.
Are you, maybe for the policy, the city council approved recently,
Not the very recent one.
then I would encourage you.
And that's the one that the airport advisory board.
Okay.
Yes, who does the maintenance? Is it a, or y'all do it? Is it any major repairs to go?
So you guys, back to line 903, buildings repair maintenance. You say you need at least 50 grand.
Yeah.
We're making commitments.
I would think.
So on average, it's about 12,000.
I would go from 9 to
14
15.
to 15. Or,
Well, 9 is what
That's
we're
fine.
Proposed.
We're at 1,000.
And then, is there anything sort of, you guys are, taking all those restrictions away, and they move that, but is there something that supervisor that you need to do the job?
There's several, but there's one piece of equipment in there that we just have one break, unfixable, and we need a new one, and that's a $10,000 piece of equipment.
what is it?
It is a industrial blower, so it's to keep it on way.
Default.
Yeah. So, it's
So is that a full line or?
So the one we had was PTO, total PTOs,
Okay.
worked great, and, that's a lot, so, but, yeah, we go the runway just because it's so wide, and we wanna get off this, if we're on the runway, we want to
But that's a safe, that's a
we had that conversation the other day, he's out in some folks today. And he was,
So, that was cost 10 grand?
Right around there. I mean, they go anywhere from 7 to 15, so.
So is that possible in this building?
Well, they have a fund balance.
yeah, okay, that, yeah, he
That's,
gets on.
that's the safety issue.
Yeah.
That's just short of a month.
That is your only part.
We have a bottom map that we take and we go between hangers with, and that just keeps it, we try to use the road that ends up. So we don't have to use the people
So you'll be running that. Okay, so street will run that. So the lower is your going to be supported for your fund.
That's a safety.
That's huge.
Yeah. And you say down now?
See that
You
15?
get it, or you get that?
Said 10, 15,
7.
7, 15?
They're
Where
great.
do you ever get those?
You
You end up with a problem, you don't have.
There's so many.
Yes,
different
yeah.
folks out there.
just got it.
Oh, yeah. Lost a lot.
Yeah.
Lost a lot.
Hold on. It's a safety.
Oh, yeah, huge.
I
Thank you.
I believe if that's, they don't have one now, and the grass is there, and they gotta mow, and it is a safety issue, I believe that doesn't need to be money, that just means that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Done, that's a safety
Oh.
issue,
We talked on Monday or Tuesday about this.
okay? Would everybody agree to that?
oh, yeah.
Does my board have them?
And until we get a committee like streets and drains, guys, welcome on
They'll take
We
it.
have it.
Sidewalk.
Yeah, they-
He's been
Been there, done that.
over blower, we don't have.
Or whether.
Safety issue.
Yes, huge.
Yes.
Yes.
What else?
And yes,
It's pretty wide.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So, just to make sure that, so just to make sure that I'm remembering, so this would be an example of the discretionary $50,000 that individuals have, including the city administrator.
No, just,
only city
So-
administrator.
it's 30,000.
30,000, okay, but this would be something that normally, if airport came to you and said that we need this, that is
Well,
yeah, but
completely
even-
within your discretion
Even
to
if it
go
was,
ahead
like I said, the 30 and it was safety concern,
Yeah.
obviously get a technical job, but you do it right away and you come back and say, hey, you have proof.
Yes.
Okay.
We had to do it.
So yeah, so really and truly, this is something to where you could just
Correct.
check, be done, and then,
But also let y'all know.
Right,
Yes.
generally speaking, because I did the same thing.
Yeah.
You would send me a text to get generally a high level blessing, for you
One month.
before the thing comes up, and then we report it back to council as a must have.
Yes. Yeah, no, this is huge.
You get the must have, right?
Yeah.
Safety, it's a safety.
It's, oh, yeah.
Okay,
It's a,
just,
No.
no,
Any other questions on the proposed budget?
We don't have really fallen in the same. Yeah, look at.
No, okay, not.
right, because if there's a safety concern,
yeah, bring it up.
we need to know those issues so we can address those. Bear in mind, always remember this, always remember this when it comes to liability on behalf of the city. If we're not aware of it, we're not on it. But once we become aware of it, we have a duty and responsibility to address it.
But we want air conditions, your turn.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
Me too.
okay, what else? Anybody else have any questions?
Well, too, is there any other equipment underneath that?
He just told you.
That air conditioner, I would
No.
It's not,
We got a couple zero turns, we got the big shredder, small shredder.
it's all working.
Yeah, everything's working, but the look outside of, I don't know if this is even feasible with this budget, but we have been in talks for the last couple of years about putting on another structure to be able to keep running. Because we're
talk with, our next, FAA rep, Ben Brett, to see what he recommends.
I don't know, maybe, please don't take this wrong, but maybe there's grant money available for that because we're maintaining the airport.
Right, that's what I said.
So there's a project, for example, because it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be canine building, it has to be shelter.
Right.
It's built to
Yeah,
stand.
we'll check, but I don't know how that's part of the maintenance, because there's.
I understand.
specific on what they can improve the range.
It has to fit within the category.
We'll check that.
I got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't hurt to ask.
Right,
Absolutely.
never heard that. Anything else?
You got your,
So on the list.
you got your list?
About as good as mine? Look at there.
Thank you guys for
Thank you guys very
much. Provide them all, talk with, give us we go.
And the information and everything.
All right, if there's nothing else to discuss on this, we're going to wrap up this part. Now, next meeting will be next Tuesday on the 30th, same time, 3 o'clock. We will begin the enterprise administration, and like I talked to Leroy, I believe you got that right, separated out.
They're doing it now.
Okay.
We're gonna meet on Monday to go over it together.
Okay.
Yes, that will be, finished out on Tuesday.
This is basically the non-departmental version of that, so we talked about, John, the staff down there, what they do other than directly to the utilities. All right, any other comments, questions, or anything? Okay, we'll close this meeting at 3:48 p.m. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank